Well, let's get into a discussion then. I'd like to, Pepijn, we can stay seated. I suppose for some reason Vibran's not on the panel, but you will be in the panel. We're going to include you. So take a seat over there, Pepijn. Yeah. I'd also like to invite at this moment Christiaan Ypma. I say it right, don't I? From Accenture. Christiaan studied computing science at the University of Utrecht. He's an experienced strategy consultant with a history of working in the computer software industry. He's skilled in software quality, enterprise architecture, IT strategy and management, all of which he puts to good use as Principal Director of Strategy at Accenture. Did I get all that right? It's all in there?
Yes,
okay, fantastic. That's Christiaan Ypma. Applause for Christiaan, please. Thank you. And now we have Mathijs Hendriks from Rabobank. And Mathijs is a FinOps Architect and Sustainable IT Advocate at Rabobank. Pretty similar to what Vibran does at competitor, ABN AMRO. You're deeply committed to improvements in sustainable IT, and Mathijs is also a passionate advocate for environmentally responsible practices that have a positive impact on our footprint. So take a seat, please.
Sit here,
you can sit there. You can sit there.
In the middle.
You can sit there. Okay. Excellent. So feel free, everybody else, to jump in with questions. I'm going to start off with asking Mathijs, because you're at Rabobank. Are you doing pretty much the same as Vibran at ABN AMRO?
No. Where Vibran, if I understand correctly, is responsible for the core sustainable IT team. We also have a sustainable IT team, but within our company, sustainability, and hopefully also at Vibran, sustainable IT is part of the whole organization. So we have a central team that does a lot of activities and some core aspects, but in the AI department, also sustainability experts and projects are going on over there. From the reporting side, that's actually not part of the sustainable IT team. That's also working on. So it's a little bit spread out through the organization.
Okay, and is it a successful approach?
I think everybody needs to learn, and I can relate to the journey that ABN AMRO has, where we started with including sustainable IT as part of our IT strategy, and we had good innovations, but we want to level it up to the rest of the organization, right? So our organization is learning how to embed it in a more efficient way. And because sustainable IT is something new and people still need to relate to it and understand it, we need to find the best position. And that is currently what we're actually doing. So right now we're putting the sustainable IT core team to a different place in Q4.
Okay. Do you find you have to sort of fight for your position within management there, against management, or are they all fully on board? Same with Vibran. I mean,
I think that is the most important within a big organization, is where you get sponsorship from the start. Sponsorship makes it easy. If you have the right people on the board from CITO perspective, or maybe the board perspective of the whole Rabobank or other company, then it makes easy to get priority, to get the budget, because still people need to do the work. So that would be my advice, to find one person that has some mandate in organization and create a group around it to start off within your company.
So another advocate for you, so ambassadors, if you like. So Christiaan, hi, Accenture. What are you doing in terms of sustainable IT practices?
So my current role at Accenture is within the strategy practice, the cloud strategy, right? So that are a lot of topics around cloud, as you said, Stephen. It's off-premise, and I like that term. As one key topic there is always economics, right? So how do we make it and how keep the cost under control? But another big topic has been and still is the green cloud story, right? You already seen it with the story from Pepijn, right? Just to move to public cloud, this is a big one, can be beneficial to your carbon emissions, and still people want to have the facts behind it, and is it real, is it just greenwashing? Those kind of topics are important. So I'm heading up both the cloud strategy practice, but also leading our sustainable IT strategy group, how to embed this in your strategy. So that's a little bit of my day-to-day responsibility at
And again,
rather fast.
Again, how successful is it? How successful have you been?
Well, that's interesting, right? So the success, as already said, right? You need to have leadership commitment, and what I see, what works best is to find that synergy, right? So it's the focus on a few companies was earlier on having a sustainability officer or something like that on board level. That's one, but then it typically becomes quickly siloed without budget, right? The budget is with the business. And what I see, what works best is to connect it to business initiatives, like just shown, right? If you look from IT perspective, there are so much synergy with either ongoing rationalization projects or data center rationalization or an existing cloud migration, or connected to also cost effectiveness, cost efficiency, because also there it's being more sustainable, or at least on the carbon footprint or energy uses has a direct relation with cost. So there are ways to actually make sure that it actually has more impact and it sticks.
Right.
Instead, it was just embedding it in the strategy and have targets and KPIs to also make sure it actually flows in the company and you change the...
You can sell it to management when you sell it as it has an effect on your bottom line.
Yeah, so it's nice to have one sponsor, but at the end, as I think you also said, right, it needs to also trickle down at the end to more management layers and throughout the company to actually get teams to get the room, get the budget, get actually time to work on it.
Is that recognisable for other people working in green IT? Yeah. Do you have to fight for your position? Are you often seen as like a bit of a pain in the ass in the company? Yeah.
Yeah, so at Rabobank we have a working group for passionate people on tribes, division layer, so not top level, not engineers, so somewhere in the middle to spread out processes, best practices, really engage with both layers. So they find each other every 2 weeks and connect with each other and make, from the people perspective, a plan towards embedding it within the organization. Right.
So is that a thing? There's also a Pepijn. You find that trying to sell green IT, encourage green IT as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think from our perspective, you really need a multidisciplinary approach. So important for leadership to indeed set the dot on the horizon, but you will need to do things on each and every level. For example, in an operations team, you also expect people to not only monitor the software, but also be proactive, right? In spotting idle resources, contacting maybe business teams to see is there anything that we can do to reduce what's going on here. At the architecture level, you expect that a large enterprise at least has a couple of sustainability blueprints in the organization. Like if we build software in a sustainable way, how do we then do that? So at all these different levels, you need to involve basically different teams.
Right. Any questions? Anyone? Surely someone had. Yeah.
I can say what.
Anyone in particular, or to the whole,
no,
to everybody?
I'll leave that in the middle, but it's a bit financial, a bit Pepijn, maybe also Accenture ordered. We are talking about best practices in building, creating, and operating IT, and find your spot in the internal corporate organization. But what I'm missing in the storyline is the end user. So me choosing between ABN AMRO and Rabobank as a customer or as a business client with a proper app on my smartphone and the user interface lacking a green button I want to hit, make my business operation, my banking operation greener,
Okay, so
Who
if
do
you're,
I pick?
if you're a
Do I
green
pick
customer,
Emerald
come
or
on,
Rebel?
sell it. Who's greener?
I start.
Where your corporate colours are green? Or is that greenwashing?
No, so I don't want to ruin your.
We can have a green off here.
No, we don't, because Mathijs and I know each other quite well. So and also with ING, this is a topic we decided not to compete on, right?
Yeah.
So we want to help each other in greening our IT operation. And but you are right, that maybe on the client side, us as customers of any of those banks, and there I have to give credits to Rabobank, who gave insights into the app, how much carbon was connected to your spending, right? I don't know if it continued, because I think it discontinued.
Yeah.
But they gave insights in that element of your purchasing behavior, right? So I think it is still important to a next step to show per transaction what the energy use and carbon emission was for the transaction you did. So for every payment you did, or for every going through from a payment from ABN to Rabo or vice versa. So I think the transparency of the system should be that we can quantify that and make that transparent. And also show the progression that we are making with greening our operations, that it actually is on a path downwards, right? So where it was 1 gram per transaction now, it's half a gram in 5 years' time. That I think then we would be showing that per unit we are doing what we are saying we are doing, right? And so that is still an objective I do have, that we give that transparency per financial transaction. And
and what you said, we collaborate quite a lot. So if you have any ideas, you can always feedback the financial sector as well, because we try to collaborate. For example, I think Rabobank was quite late with the black design. Right now, we also on your end user device, you can select now, instead of white design, black design. So less energy is used when opening the app and using the app. So I think ABN AMRO was ahead of us, but we are learning from each other, and that's why we are all here, to learn from each other, to move forward. And that is the power of the community, where in our company we spend a lot of time on the community. We have around 2,000 people interactive in doing events, hackathons, challenges to get the innovation within the organization. And for us, as such a huge organization of 36,000 employees, we also need to give a place of those innovations further in the organization to scale it out. So right now we're creating a steering group to do that. We were always focused on innovations, but we want to spend more time on green innovations, because we think there could be more attention to level it up.
So good to know you're not competing with each other when it comes
No.
to green IT.
no, this aspect.
Well, we've all got the same goal, haven't we? Less and fewer emissions. Yeah. But having said that, when's the app going to come? As you asked, is there going to be a time when we can see which company is greener, or maybe that's something for consultants that you can see. We can see if we're conscious consumers, then we can see exactly the emissions for
it differs
different
a lot
companies.
between industries, right? So I work a lot across industry, also because of my orientation. Because the real question is, will you choose a different bank if there is a 5% difference in CO2 usage of the digital app, right? So that is one. So what is the sensitivity of your client towards being really proactive in ventilating what your CO2 usage is? That's a business reason to invest in this, and this differs per industry.
Yeah.
You can imagine in the retail or in the aviation or hospitality industry, it's a completely different question there. They are much more. They want to show way more on how green it is, or how you can compensate, or how you can, because there people are thinking about, well, I'm traveling, I'm flying, so I'm doing bad things, so I want to know, well, what can I actually improve? So I see that in those industries there's much more focus on, if you look at the IT part, to also actively show back well, what do we do as IT and how can we show that we are really green. But it's also because maybe other parts of the company have more issues in showing greenness, and that's the whole thing of banking, right? It's nice to not compete on this because you all want to improve, and it's maybe also not a distinguishing feature towards the clients. So that's a little bit of the background, I think.
I guess for very purist clients who want to really know that everything they do in life, the services they're getting or the products they're buying, have the lowest possible footprint. And believe you, there are people who are that purist in how they live nowadays. It may be an aspect they take into consideration when choosing a financial service provider, right?
Yeah.
And then you're really at the nitty-gritty details, and I don't think a lot of people are there and would make that decision to go either to Rabo or ABN AMRO because of that. The thing would be that we would have to standardize and harmonize and standardize on exactly the same way of measuring. Because, like I said before, if we leave out stuff in our scope, whereas Rabo puts it in, then we're comparing apples with pears, which is very, very good possible. You can perfectly compare apples and pears. I don't understand the saying that can't compare apples. I always think you can compare them very good. One is this shape, one is that shape. No, but that's not what you want to do. You want to compare apples with pears at that moment in time. So, yeah.
So I have a question to you guys, because we're talking, but how many people of you are now working in your company with sustainable IT? Or not specifically you, but your company is working more related to it?
I think the main challenge is to bring transparency to the industry, because that's what you are explaining at the moment. There is basically, when it comes to, for example, if you buy a fridge, you have a ranking, but if you buy a hardware software, you don't have any transparency on the actual application level or your hardware. So that's the challenge. And to bridge with your question, if it would be great to have digital passport on everything, and that's something we often talk in CNCF and all the industry we are part of, is to actually bring more data. Because it's also only averages that we are talking about always.
And we're seeing it again with AI coming, so we're getting the technology, but we're not getting the impact metrics that should go with it, right? So if you use this large language model with so many tokens in this part of the day, then that would be the typical energy user footprint, I should say, that goes with it. And so we're getting the technology, but we're not getting the steering information to steer on the impact, the sustainability impact of that technology. And so it's tech pushing for the market share and pushing the tech into our lives, into operations, but lacking good steering information on that tech. And we're working our way around that, trying to, together with universities and research institutes, to put a figure on it and then see how it holds. But very ideally, or maybe not even ideally, but I think very sanely, you would expect that data, that metric, to come from the sector.
And real time, because the problem, there is no real time data yet.
Yeah, or at least near real time. Now a lot of the data comes, but it comes like 6 weeks after the fact.
Yeah, 6 weeks,
and
3 months with Microsoft or Google.
For me, I'm a practical guy. I steer practical initiatives. All the engineers can do right away what we release. When we talk about sustainable IT, it's more like we need more data, we need more granularity, we need a better calculation. I think we agree all to move forward to understand that perspective. But we shouldn't wait, because with logical thinking, we can do so much. If you're just asking an average engineer, not in the context of sustainable IT, just is your application efficient? Can you do something about it? And the engineer will probably say no. And yes, we can do something about it, and I can do it today. And with 5 minutes of work, I can maybe reduce 10% of the load already. So let's not wait until the golden apple. let's start right away, because for example, when we have data, after 3 months we don't use it anymore, but we keep it as long as possible. But it's not just DevOps engineer, because within a company, it's engineers that doing all the CO2 emissions and creating something. Yeah, but business is setting those requirements. Together with all the people around you, you come to a plan of execution. So business also needs to be accountable for this and needs to be also taught. So not just focus on the engineer, but do a wider range of trainings for the whole company.
Yeah. How aware are your companies of green IT, or even the concept that IT even has high emissions and going to have even higher in the future? Are your companies aware of that? Very much? Very much? Okay. Yeah. So another question for our panel, anybody? Questions? Okay. What's the one thing that all companies, perhaps a company that hasn't done anything about greening up their IT, just wants to start doing something, maybe go, oh, maybe we can lower our emissions. What's the one maybe simple thing they could do to start with? Yeah.
When I start, but one of the things we did already early on, we now ingrained it into a dashboard again, but it's called sustainability dashboard, sustainability dashboard. It's shutting things down. It's just so simple, but a lot of our equipment is now virtualized, is now in cloud indeed, and its infrastructure as code, and you can actually shut it down. So if your developer is not using it, shut it down. At the end of your code pipeline, shut it down. Okay. And it spins up in a few milliseconds. That's the whole promise also of cloud. It's metered resources on demand. Some sort of NIST definition, I'm close to it. So shut it down. I mean, it's there to spin up and spin down, and spin it down is the tactic to apply for sustainability.
And what kind of effect can that have on emissions?
Yeah, for us that had a massive effect, because we still have too much infrastructure that is up and running too much time. It's effectively just not used. Test environments, development environments, acceptance environments. So all kinds of environments that are there throughout all our landscape. And just being very prudent and very strict in shutting them down immediately after use, or spinning them only up when they're used. If there's an update for data, spin them up. Do the data update or the security patches, and then spin them down again.
So that's the one takeaway. Shut it down. Okay. You mentioned cloud. Chris, what do you see as the importance of public cloud in greening IT?
Yeah, I think it's crucial, right? It's a pivotal thing that exists, the hyperscaler part of it. So I'm just parking the whole sovereignty discussion. But there are a few key things that you can only currently achieve with going with hyperscalers. One is just the scale and innovation capacity of those companies. Might you have the energy efficiency of the data centers. They have, let's say, the amounts of innovation they put in their hardware, and the way they set up the data centers is they have the track record of the last 10, 20 years. Across the globe, so that's one element, right? So but also the utilization of those data centers is really high, right? It's really struggle if you have your own data center to get to the same utilization, which is key for sustainability, and also shown the localization. So we have much more flexibility, right? If you have a hyperscaler, and still in the name of it, right? You can also think about where do I want to have my workloads, still taking into account where am I allowed to run my workloads. And at the same time, it's also innovation itself, right? So the continuous innovation of cloud native technology and construct you can use also have a huge impact on what you can actually save on energy. So that is also related to the role of hyperscalers. Yeah. So I think those are key things, right? It's shown in the table and just shown by Pepijn, right? It's a massive impact if you have a substantial amount on your own data centers. Yeah. It's hard for smaller local data center providers to have the same level of innovation.
Yeah. Can you add something? I see you nodding. Can you add to that, Pepijn?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we see is that many enterprises basically use a lift and shift approach. So they basically migrate their on-prem servers into the cloud and then they stop. But then you basically don't leverage the capabilities of cloud. For example, technologies like serverless are basically the next paradigm shift when it comes to reducing energy consumption, having more resource sharing. So there's a lot of promise there, I would say. I also want to add it's not just related to public cloud. You can also do these strategies in private cloud, although you need to make sure that you use the right hardware, use the right platform to make sure that you can actually have similar capabilities as in the cloud. But basically making software cloud native, that is really going to be the next paradigm shift in greening software even further than we are doing today, I would say.
Maybe one additional is related to what you said, right? So let's say one of the low-hanging fruit to keep the fruit ongoing is shutting things down, right? If it's not used, shut it down, saves carbon and energy. But if you are on public cloud or private cloud, at least pay for consumption, you also stop paying for the resource, right? So there's a direct financial gain of actually doing that, right? You save energy, you save carbon, but you also save money, which is not the case in the same way if you have your own hardware in your own data center, right? So there is a little bit of a difference in the financial gain.
It depends, I guess, on the size of your operation.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have a good installed operation that always needs to run, and there's a scenario that we also don't talk about that much anymore, where we did in the beginning, that's bursting. So why not run on your own data center, and when indeed you lack resources, you burst into a temporary pool, can well be a public cloud, even a hyperscaler, and then you move back once the peak load's gone, right? So being more flexible, more hybrid in where you run and how long you run is, I think, crucial into keeping IT in check with sustainability. Yeah.
And in addition to that, what are the other benefits of greening up IT? Any other additional benefits you can think of? Efficiency, lower emissions, anything else?
I think if people are motivated, so we see a lot of people who are really into this topic. People always say the youngsters coming in from universities, but that's not very true. They are, it's all our future, but it's certainly their future. But we just see a lot of people who are into this sustainability topic, so they want to understand what am I doing and am I contributing to the solution or to the problem, all right? Yeah. And more people want to be part of the solution, I think, I find. And so they're checking if their company they work for is doing that. And if not, they'll move to a different company that is part of the solution and not part of the problem. So it's really about image and
need the measuring. They need to know it
again.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. We had an HR campaign last year explaining the role of sustainability of IT internally already for a long time, but externally we didn't do that. So we made it part of our HR campaign last year, and we saw, I think, a rise of 500% of new Gen Z generation signing up because they want to collaborate with people who are doing something about it. So, especially the newer generation wants to contribute in some way.
Okay, that's positive.
So now we are competing because of the talent.
But talent is always related to IT. It's hard to get, right?
Do we have any final questions for our panel, for anybody?
No, I think maybe I also have fun.
Comments.
But also like try it. So the initiative we did within our company is that they, of course, like Gen AI is coming on, but also I think it ties in what you said that we need to get all the teams in the company involved, right? So the one thing we did at our own LLM that we use, it will always tell you the amount of energy you use for whatever prompt you give it. It will tell you at the bottom, this costs this much, this costs this much. So we also challenge, especially like the younger people as well, that you can turn this on in ChatGPT, for example, as well. And I think this one challenge, like it was like a green challenge, we challenged everyone, use as little energy for your prompts as possible for like a week. This also like involved the engagements with the green IT team also like a massive amount. People were like, oh, I never knew it was this much.
Wow.
Sales teams came up, I really should start writing own emails again. Like you immediately go, you make it very tangible.
Yeah,
Because like
nice.
people want to use technology now and they want to interact with it, but sometimes you don't really know how to steer them to, okay, but you can still use it.
Yeah.
But just take one extra step before you actually implement it. So maybe a nice one to take home as well.
Yeah,
Nice
that's
one.
a nice idea.
Fun
Yeah.
challenge to just do it in a team and then see what happens.
Any other tips? Yeah, advice?
We also included the TikTok.
I have to call Alibaba Cloud, but
Great. Any final takeaways? Any final bits of advice or a call to arms that you can?
One thing, we talked about data, low-hanging fruits. I think when you go to multiple sessions, they will always pop up, the low-hanging fruits, and in different versions. But looking at a company like Rabobank at the scale, it's also connecting the data points to the actual person that act on it, and that needs to be in all the reporting. Is it in control? Is it compliancy? Is it security? It needs to be all the same, and that can be quite challenging sometimes. So yeah, we can think about data, but somebody needs to act, and that needs to be standardized within a whole company with labeling, tagging, whatever, how you do it. But that's one of the key elements for getting those data points out. And another thing is actually policies, because from a company perspective, you already know, yeah, those services, they will not, they're not necessary or not valuable, or so you can block them off from day one. So also looking at the different computes, I don't know how ABN AMRO is doing it, but we block off large compute systems, so developers cannot deploy them without asking, basically. Only a small amount of applications need them, so they will request when needed. So yeah, those things you also need to think about.
Great. Because the problem is huge, isn't it? I mean, it's only going to get more and more. And greening up IT is going to become more and more important. I read, I mean, back me up here, is this true? I read that the whole Bitcoin network uses more energy than the whole of the country of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
And growing, right?
And it's growing, that's insane.
That's the forgotten one. Everybody always talks about AI, but if you look at the terawatt hours,
Yeah.
And
That's insane.
the previous hype is still running.
Yeah.
indeed.
Right.
And that's only Bitcoin, right?
That's only Bitcoin.
There's 23,000 of them out there.
And TikTok is probably the size of China. The energy of China. I don't know. It's incredible. It's only going to get more and more, isn't it? So keep fighting the good fight, everybody, and good luck greening up your IT and helping to save this beautiful planet of ours, so we don't all just move into the matrix and forget about it.
Blue pill.
Yeah, blue pill. Thanks very much. It's the end of the session. Can I have applause for our panel, please? Christiaan, Pepijn.